Good morning and welcome to Good Morning Hudson, the membership meeting for the Hudson Chamber of Commerce. My name is Mary Claire Olson-Potter, president of the Chamber, and I'm thrilled to welcome you all here on this beautiful Friday morning. We are celebrating International Women's Day at this Good Morning Hudson program. So celebrated annually on March 8th. We decided we would do it on Friday. I wasn't sure if you would all gather with us on Sunday, so we decided to do it today. But actually, it's been observed since the 1990s, a time of great expansion and turbulence in the industrial world that saw a booming population. So the first International Women's Day event was held in 1911. And today, a global web of rich and diverse local activity connects women from all around the world. The theme for the 2020 campaign is #EachForEqual. Equality is not a women's issue, it's a business issue. Gender equality is essential for economies and communities to thrive. Collectively, each one of us can help create a gender equal world. And today, we are excited to welcome a great group of local leaders that will be participating in our panel this morning. At this time, I would like to acknowledge the sponsor of today's program, Christensen Creative. Christensen Creative is a graphic design studio with a history of creating good design for companies doing good things. For 18 years, this Hudson-based creative firm has partnered with organizations such as Marvin Windows and Doors, Health Partners, Ecolab, Deluxe, and more, all while branding many of our local favorites right here in the Hudson community. Christensen Creative is a local women-owned business founded and managed by Hudson native Tricia Christensen. Now, unfortunately, Tricia and her team are all back at their studio working very hard this morning, and they were unable to join us, but let's give them a round of applause for sponsoring. So you too could be a sponsor of an upcoming Good Morning Hudson program. So if you're interested in doing that, please see me following today's event. I also like to give a thanks to the Phipps Center for the Arts for hosting and to the Wired Robin, a woman-owned business, for catering today. Thank you. Amy and Carolyn in the back, great job this morning. Okay, great, thank you. A number of upcoming events I want to make you aware of that are included on the agenda in front of you. We will, on March 19th at 6:30 right here at the Phipps Center for the Arts, we are hosting a free Hudson Mayoral Community Forum. So that'll be at 6:30 in the music room just down the hall. So invite you to come early, write down some questions that you would have for the candidates, and that will be held on the 19th. Our April Good Morning Hudson program is going to feature Mike Veck from the St. Paul Saints, so that will be a fun day, and we're tying into that kind of a three-part series that we introduced in the March newsletter. Chamber Night at the St. Paul Saints game is going to be July 14th, so we are all going to go out to the ballpark and experience that. And then on October 8th will be a half-day Fun is Good seminar with Mike and his team. I've been to that seminar. It is a wonderful seminar with great speakers talking about leadership, challenges, balances, but will for sure be a fun event. I encourage you to participate in all of those. And we're also thinking for the Saints game, we're going to sign up to do a couple on-field promotions. So if you've been to a Saints game and had a chance to watch some of those, you could be the lucky winner to do those fun gimmicks on the field. So, and if you don't sign up, we may pick your name anyway. So beware. And then on May 3rd, we are very excited to team with Coco's Heart Craft and Bake Sale to do rebrand and rename the Spring Showcase, which is going to be the Hudson Community Expo, and it's going to be up at the Hudson High School. So, and that's going to be from 11 to 3:30, but great opportunity to have a booth, showcase your business, be a sponsor, attend, and see all that Hudson has to offer. So that will be on May 3rd. And if we have any golfers in the room, mark your calendar for June 22nd for our annual golf outing. One of the many benefits of attending Good Morning Hudson is the opportunity to make new connections and meet some new folks. So at this time, I'm going to invite you to take out 3 to 5 business cards, get up and exchange with those around you, and you're also going to do selfies to promote International Women's Day. I'll bring you back. So as I said earlier, we have a fabulous panel today, and first we're going to hear from Finch. I will have to say I've totally enjoyed getting to know Anne over this past year. She had her beautiful home on the Christmas tour of homes, if any of you went on that. So even after being on the tour, she still said yes to speak today. So I know, right? But Anne Finch, she is CEO of Logistics Health, is a wholly owned business of Optum focused on providing medical-related services to Department of Defense, VA, government, and commercial entities. Optum is a division of United Health Group. And previous to being CEO of Logistics Health, she was their CIO for 4 years. While at United Health Group, Anne has also been Vice President of United Health Group Solution Support Services, where she oversaw a team of over 1,500 staff, professionals who care for their systems 24/7, 365 days a year. So I think that's pretty much every day. Anne has 35 years of experience in information technology, having started her technology career as a PC technician, help desk, programmer analyst, tape librarian at Midwest Federal. She has her doctorate in organizational development, a master's in software engineering from St. Thomas University, and a bachelor's of business science from the University of Minnesota, and degrees in computer operations, computer programming from Century College. She has served on a number of boards, and she is currently chair-elect for the La Crosse Chamber of Commerce Board of Directors. So please join me in giving a warm welcome to Anne Finch.
Well, thank you for letting me come and talk to you today. I really do feel that this is a really huge honor. One of my philosophies is you always give back to the network. So I never say no when I'm asked to speak or meet with somebody, because I always feel that the network gives back to you. It is true, I'm still shaking off the glitter from Christmas. It's everywhere, it really is. But what I told Mary Claire is the biggest gift that I got from doing the chamber is I honestly had no idea how rich of a business community Hudson have. I've lived in Hudson for over 25 years now, yet I really had never engaged with the business side. So I am super excited. I am so proud now when I drive through downtown Hudson to look at the storefronts and know not only the number of small business, but the number of women-owned small businesses that empower this whole area. And not just recently either. I mean, like decades and decades, and I am so proud to be part of that. And so I've very much changed my way of thinking of the community I'm in, and I'm super glad to give back on that. So I do live in North Hudson, so I'm one of the North Siders. I've got 4 kids, a husband, and I've got 3 dogs. So like we're deep in. A couple of them are already out of the house, off the payroll. But 2 of them are still home going to Hudson High School, so be careful, they're both driving. Yeah. If you're in our neighborhood, nothing good comes from that. So the company that I work for, it's kind of interesting because it's a super male-based company. Our company, Logistics Health Inc., is actually located in La Crosse, Wisconsin. So I'm there usually Tuesdays through Thursdays, and then I live here kind of on the weekends. So my husband and kids run wild during the middle of the week. What our company does is it provides medical services to over 9.3 million military active reservists, military family members, and veterans. So let me ask this question. In the room, how many veterans do we have? Raise your hand if you're a veteran. All right. Thank you, sir, for your service. Oh, I'm sorry. Who did I miss? Thank you, ma'am, for your service, too. I think what we forget is that less than 1% of our population volunteer, raise their hand to serve, yet every day we all get up and we get to choose where we live, how we worship, where our kids go to school, what we do for a living, and it's truly on the backs of our veterans that we do that. How many of you are military spouses? All right, let's give a round of applause to our military spouses. Military spouses are the ones that enable our military and our veterans to do their jobs, and their sacrifices are not small. Military spouses are underemployed by 19%. Which means they give up their place in line, they move their careers around on behalf of us, again, so we can have great lives. So very much support anything you can do to make sure we give military spouses that encouragement and career opportunities and flexibilities in their jobs. So at our company, it's a very male-based company. So I took over from a veteran who ran the company for 20 years. It was really hard for me to think, how am I, as a female, going to enter this very male-based military company? So that certainly was a challenge that I overcame. I do want to talk a little bit, so how did somebody that started off programming at 13 accidentally turn into a CEO? It was never on my career goals to do that. I actually went into programming because I'm very shy. I'm an introvert. If it was up to me, I would spend all day with my computer in a cute little cubicle. It was the dream job for me, really. It was quite exciting. What was interesting, and Mary Claire showed you all of my degrees, I was actually a horrible student. The whole reason I started programming at 13, it was a way to avoid sports, and it was a way to avoid school, because they let you get out of school half days to go do on-the-job training. I got probably C's and B's. When I got out of high school, I went right into programming. I had 2 technical degrees, because again, you could get out of school by going for free to technical colleges, and it was never really my intention to go to school at all. I just wanted to work. I loved it. I had my cube, I had my computer, life was really good. Yet my parents both were in education. My dad was an art teacher for 46 years, so he's like, you will get your degree. It took me 10 years going part-time to get my bachelor's degree, because in that time I had 2 kids, I got married, life happened, but I just continued to go one class at a time. And I do tell that story to a lot of kids, because a lot of them feel like if you don't go to college full-time, your life is over. And technical colleges, excellent way to get started in so many fields, so much needed, and it doesn't matter how long it takes you to get your degree, and it honestly doesn't even matter what grades you get. Nobody has ever asked me what my college GPA was. Never. It's never been asked, so I just passed. That's all you need to know. I passed. And, even going back for my master's was a part-time thing. I was realizing that in my current job, my technology skills were starting to fade while my team was moving forward. So I really went back to school just to keep up with my technology employees. And then my last degree, I just really accidentally got to. I literally had just finished graduating from my master's degree, and I'm like, gosh, I've been going to school for now 14 years. Like, what am I going to do with all my spare time, right? And at the time, I had just gotten divorced. I had 2 kids. They were out of diapers. It was easy, and I thought, well, I'll just get another degree, because it's been kind of fun, a lot of camaraderie. So I went back and I got my doctorate in organizational development, because what was fascinating about that field was, in all my other degrees, they never talked about human motivation, human change, how to make culture. I thought you just got what you got. Either you got motivated people or you didn't. You got a good company culture or you just left and went somewhere better, right? So the idea that you can change culture, you can motivate individuals, you can motivate teams was hugely inspirational to me. So I went back and I got that degree. Again, part-time. And in all those situations, I used my company's tuition reimbursement programs, because again, that's a great tool, and I always tell people to leverage those tools too. So if you look at my career, so while I was a technologist all of my career, Mary Claire asked one of the questions to me, it's like, what was some of your game changers? My biggest game changer was about 10 years into my career. I realized that I actually was not good at technology. I was a technologist, but I was actually not good at technology. There were people better at technology, and what was truly what I was good at was the people side of it. It was connecting the dots, finding people that were better than me, putting them in the right role, finding people in wrong roles, getting them to the right role, connecting 2 really smart people together to make an idea even better. And so I am a big fan of strengths-based management and strengths-based leadership. I can't tell you how many classes I took in grammar, spelling, finance, all the things I was bad at in business, and I just never got better. One, it wasn't my strength, and two, I just hate it. Like, if you know the comma's in the wrong place, you know the comma's in the wrong place. Why should I have to fix that for you? That's just like my mindset. And like, if you know the numbers and you're telling me I don't understand the numbers, it's like, well, then maybe you should do the numbers. Like, right? Why am I doing that? So once in my mind, I said, I am going to take the things I'm not good at and have people do that, hire people do that, have friends that help me with that. And I'm going to go to work every day and do what I'm good at and do my strengths thing. So that's tip number one. If you've never taken Strengths Finders 2.0 by Tom Rath, it's a great way to just show yourself in the mirror what you're good at, and then look at what you're doing every day and go, do I get to do what I enjoy every single day? And if you're not, start making some choices around that, because I tell you, the soon as you lean into that, the soon as I gave up trying to be a really great technologist and stopped trying to master grammar and spelling, my life got way better. Way better. So that's probably tip number one. And if I look at my career too, all the jobs I had where I materially moved my career better was when I was a gap filler. Look for a need, look for something that somebody's not getting that you need. So I'll tell you one of my stories is one of my first jobs at Midwest Federal. While I was a programmer, there was these new things coming out. They were called PCs, and they had the floppy disks were really this big, like you put them in like a toaster, right? And nobody wanted to take care of the PCs because that wasn't where the big projects were. So I'm like, well, I'll take care of those things. So I started taking care of the PCs. There was 5, then there was 10, then there was 40. I went from being an individual data operator, tape librarian / PC girl. On the directory, it literally said PC girl. Like, it never occurred to me to be offended because there wasn't a PC boy. Like, there was just me. So like, they would just look, oh, the PC girl, hey, something's wrong with this thing, come and fix it, right? This was in the days where we wore nylons and pumps, and I'm in wiring closets with solder iron. Solder and nylons do not go well together. They are not friends. So, being a gap filler, because I was there, suddenly I was running a department of PC people just because I was the only one, and now there was a herd of them. The next good story I have is a game changer of a gap. I was at an insurance company running big systems on big mainframes, and this funny thing started around. It was called like the World Wide Web, and they thought this was kind of this weird thing, like nobody wanted to do anything with it. There was these couple engineers that had an idea of like, could you, instead of using insurance salespeople, could you sell it over the World Wide Web? And it was like crazy talk. They needed like $4 million to do it. They tried to sell it multiple times, but it wasn't selling. Their 75-page white paper was not compelling the board. They told it to me, and I'm like, wow, that's a really interesting business proposition. Like, you wouldn't have to pay commissions. People could sit in their underwear and buy insurance. It sounded really great. I put together, honestly, a cartoon of a picture, what it would look like. Here's Anne at home with a computer. She types in these 5 things, a magical underwriting thing. You give your credit card, and poof, you're done. I used that 1-page cartoon to sell to the board the idea of selling insurance online. And they're like, yeah, let's do that. And like the engineer guys are over there with their 75 people like, she did like stick figures. You gave her $4 million. 1 year later, that insurance company sold 1/3 of their insurance over line. And it wasn't because I was the smartest person in the room. In fact, I actually dumbed it down. I dumbed it down from the smart people, but I made it compelling. I filled a gap. And then guess what? When I had this money, I wanted to be the person to create the website. No, instead I got 35 really smart people to create the website. And that was my first big leap. Nobody wanted to run that department because they're like, this is just going to be a fad. You're going to hire these people. You're going to have to fire them. It'll never go anywhere. A year later, how many people wanted to steal my job and become that person? So a lot of my career leaps are gap filling. And I would say how I even got my job today is I was at Optum I had 1,700 people as my employees, right? 1,700. And I was offered a job in La Crosse, Wisconsin to lead a team, an IT team of 54 people. Everybody's like, why would you leave a 1,700 person job to lead 54? Nobody wanted the job. And I'm like, this sounds like a great job, taking care of the military. That's huge. I would love to give back. Wouldn't that be great? And La Crosse, it's a lot like Hudson. They've got a river, they've got a bridge, they got a great Main Street. It's everything I have right here. So I went there to be simply their IT person and bring out the potential in those 54 leaders. And what I found down there was huge potential. That IT team is now 300 folks. And when I got there, there was no strategy. The guy that had been running the company had great vision for what could get done, but he was never planning a couple years out. So I simply am like, you guys don't have strategy. Do you mind if I lead the strategy planning process? He's like, yeah, go ahead. That sounds like a good idea. Go for it. Right? So I led planning and strategy for them for 4 years. And when he was ready to retire, he started looking for presidents. And every time he would interview, people were like, well, Ann's kind of been actually doing this for the last 4 years. You want to just have her do it? I said no. Because I have trained for 37 years to be the head of IT. I had trained myself nothing to be a CEO. Remember, I don't like finance. I don't like details. And I'm an introvert. I want to just sit at home with my computer or my book and not be with people. A big thing of a CEO is being out in front of people. Yet, the way they hooked me on this job was kind of to say, well, who cares more about our 2,400 employees? Who cares more about our 9 million veterans and military service members than you? And if we pick somebody else, what if they're bad? They're going to be your bad boss. I'm like, oh. Fine. So again, gap filling. And I think a lot of the businesses that I see when I go through Hudson, you guys have filled gaps. You've seen things that are needed. You've seen things. I've listened to some of the women's groups you guys have started here. You guys are seeing gaps. You're filling those needs. So I think you're already going down that success path. I would say the third hint I have for how I've gotten to where I have, the last job I applied for was in 1984. Since then, I have never applied for a job. My network has always led me to the next job. It's always somebody going, hey, I heard there's an opening here. Hey, I heard there's a job here. Hey, I think you'd be great at this. I'll share a story with you. This young man who is a recruiter came to me. He's like, you would be an awesome portfolio manager. So in IT, I'm like, I don't even know what portfolio manager is. I had never heard of that thing. He's like, oh, well, basically you take an investment of projects that you're going to do on behalf of a company, and you make sure that money gets spent on good things. You make sure the project gets done. You make sure you get the return on investment. I'm an IT person. I'm like, yeah, that doesn't sound like a really great job. He's like, you're perfect. You connect dots. You're great with people. You're good at assessing things. 3 years later, I became the portfolio manager for an $800 million portfolio at U.S. Bank. A job I never even knew existed, in a role I'd never even had before, just because I networked with somebody that told me about a job, went out there and convinced me I should take the job, became one of the jobs that I've had. So that's why I always feed the network. Always, even if you don't know why you're meeting with somebody or what we'll do, talk to them, learn about them, keep connections, make connections, feed the network. You will never regret that. I've never had somebody go, oh my God, what a waste of time. Networks will always take care of you. So those are a couple of my helpful hints. So the other question Mary Claire said is, what's it been like for you to live in a very male-based industry? IT is very, very male-centric. I will tell you, the first 25 years of my career, I didn't have a female boss. There were no female IT executives those first 20 years. I had no role models. All my role models were men, so that's just a data point. I absolutely have been in odd situations. Think back early in my career. I've been doing this for 35 years. I was absolutely brought to strip clubs as part of our business case, right? I have gone to business meetings at strip clubs and been told to suck it up, buttercup, this is where we do our business. And I've sat there and given great tips to the strippers there. Hey, they're just trying to do a job. They're feeding their families too. And I was very respectful and I got stuff done. I have been brought to trade fairs as booth babe. It used to be a job. They used to actually call it, who's going to be our booth babe? And you may be a technologist. I was a technologist. And you would be the booth babe, the person that stands on the edge and kind of hooks people in. I never looked at it at the time as a bad thing. I'm like, great, I get to talk to way more people than you ugly guys back in the booth get to. So worked fine for me. Now, again, lots has changed. So the good news is it's been a long time since somebody's dragged me into a strip bar and I felt that I had to go. It's been a long time since people talked about booth babes, yet it's still out there, right? We still have to continue to advocate for it. Good news is about 15 years ago, I got my first female boss. That was encouraging. I certainly had been a female boss for a while. So again, being able to lead and role model even from the bottom of the org to the middle of the org to the top of the org. Certainly we have a chance now to be here as examples, all of us, for our daughters, for our coworkers. Yet there's still a lot of us that have some unrealistic tapes playing in our head, that we have to be the perfect mom, the perfect wife, the perfect coworker, and we have to give ourselves permission to not have to do everything perfect. That was a big game changer for me, where I used to think I can't go to bed until the dishes are all out of the sink and everything's picked up and every toy. So learning how to back myself off from some of those personal expectations. And I know those of you that are in the human capital world know too, that as women, when we look at a job, we look to see if we can fill 100%. The stats say 80% of the job. Yet our male counterparts, when they look at a job, if they've got 20%, maybe even 5% of it, they're just going to apply anyhow because they're like, I'll figure it out once I get there, right? So we have to learn to be as courageous as our male counterparts to say, we too will figure it out. Certainly a lot of the jobs I've had, I didn't know along the way. And honestly, I wouldn't have taken them unless I had somebody else pushing me into those jobs, telling me that I can do those jobs. So we need to be aware of our own tapes that are telling us what we can't do and change those tapes. We need to catch each other playing those wrong tapes and tell them a different story so that they have the confidence to take things that maybe they otherwise wouldn't. So I love hearing the strong networks you guys are building. And just remember that every step of the way you have a chance to bring somebody along with you, give somebody the inspiration to try that different. And I'm super pleased to see males in the group too, because you play a big role in our sisters, your daughters, your, the Girl Scouts that come to your door. Every female that you have a chance to interact with, you have a chance to help boost their confidence too. So it's very important the role that males play in advocacy, sponsorship, mentorship, and helping people kind of push back their own mental conceptions of what good looks like. So, in closing, I know you're going to do a panel with lots of really great questions. I'm super proud to be here, super proud to be part of this community, and I hope if you ever need anything from me, I'm more than happy to always help too. So, thank you.
Thank you, Anne, for your inspiring comments. And this is the third or fourth event you're speaking at for International Women's Week?
Yes.
Yes. All right. So thank you so much. At this time, I'm going to invite, as I introduce our other panel's guests to come forward. First, I'll introduce Sarah Bruch. She is co-owner of the Purple Tree. She is founder and co-owner of the Purple Tree, located in historic downtown Hudson. She's been a resident of Hudson for over 25 years, and her entrepreneurial perspective was enhanced by a business background in corporate banking, retail, and human resource management. The Purple Tree, under her leadership, became one of Wisconsin's first public benefit corporation. And benefit corporations, unlike other corporate alternatives, adhere to the triple line, bottom line business practices. The commitment that the planet and people are just as important as the profit. The Purple Tree features products that are good for our planet and good for people. I know many of those products are in my home, so thank you. And this spring, Sarah will receive her Master of Science degree in Sustainable Business Management. So welcome, Sarah. Our next guest panel is Ruth Johnston. known as Ruth, or I know her as Ruthie, President and CEO of Croix Gear and Machining. Ruthie has served as president of Croix Gear since the passing of her husband, Mark. She's been president the last 8 years. She has a passion for continuous learning to bring her best to work, family, and community involvement. As a result, over the last 8 years, Ruthie has learned and continues to hone her skills in leadership, business management, finance, operations management, company culture, innovation, and strategic planning. Prior to her marriage, she was a certified radiologic technologist, and later using that skill set to become a health assistant on staff at the Hudson High School. And in her current position, Ruthie has found a love of manufacturing. She is currently working in the local community to open doors and remove the industrial camouflage to show people at all levels what is available at a trade-related career, especially in manufacturing for men and for women. Please join me in welcoming Ruthie. And I am so pleased to welcome Maria Schmidt, owner of the Winzer Stube German restaurant, Fabulous Food I have experienced myself. She moved to the United States in January 1982 after they left the United States Army in Germany. Her first job was at Dayton's department store in St. Paul in the food division, and who doesn't remember those great days of Dayton's great food? She worked her way up to department manager and later to regional manager with 9 restaurants and marketplaces. It was her favorite job and also her only job. Marie opened Marie's Bistro Deli in Butler Square in Minneapolis in 1997 and the Winzer Stube here in beautiful Hudson in 1999. And if she wasn't busy enough, she opened Midi, right? Midi. In Duluth Figter's complex, a Mediterranean restaurant. She managed a theater, 4 banquet rooms, hotel breakfast, and restaurants, all very successful businesses. Her background is in hotel restaurant management after an apprenticeship in Germany, Switzerland, and Great Britain. Her family owned bed and breakfast and carpentry businesses. Marie states, "I love what I do every day, and I look forward to going to work." Please join me in welcoming Marie. So we have a few set questions for the panelists, and then we will open it up for questions from the audience. So I'm going to start with Sarah on what are the one to 2 events that have shaped your life?
Wow. Just one off the bat. Mary Claire was super nice and sent some questions for us to kind of think about. So I've had some few moments to think on this. And quite honestly, one of the most recent events happened probably about 16 years ago. I ran for a state office in Wisconsin, and I didn't win. And that's okay, because I learned a lot of really important things. I spoke with a lot of amazing people in our community, and I was inspired by them. And even though my plan didn't go the way I thought it should go, which is something maybe Ann mentioned too, it worked out far better. It really did. And it has solidified in my brain that I also have a huge responsibility to give back to my community. And like Ann, I don't say no when I'm asked to help. When I see that need, I try to figure out how we can fill it and how we can make our community better. And so that was really a huge moment in life that really made things a lot more clear. So I don't have anything but tremendous happiness when I think about those days. And I'm just so grateful that it led me to continue in that kind of vein of serving my community and trying to help other women and really women locally, and then also with our business we get to help women internationally too. Even though it is really not fair or just quite yet in the U.S., it's even more disturbing in developing countries. And so I am fortunate enough to be able to help women far away put food on their table, have a home, maybe have access to health care, really important things that I think lots of times in our country we take for granted. So that's mine.
All right, Marie, how about for you? One or two events that shaped your life?
Well, I think it's more, I worked for two ladies that owned a 5-star hotel in Switzerland, and they really shaped me and brought out the potential that I have or had for working in hotels and restaurants. And I was working for them for 3 years, and they helped me along every way. And they're gone now. I mean, that was a long time ago, but they said, you can do more. You just have to trust yourself and that you can do it. Because I'm an introvert too. And so that was a really great thing. And I think about those ladies all the time, what they would have done if I have to make a decision or anything. I think so far it has worked out.
All right, Ruthie, one or two things that have shaped your life.
That was a really difficult question.
Do you want me to move on to the next one?
No. It's really interesting because I do a lot of work on leadership and studying leadership because I came into this late in my life, this position. And so I posed this question not too long ago to my team because you've all probably heard of Maria Shriver, and she puts out a Sunday paper every week. If you can subscribe to it for free. And recently it was a thing she put out, and I've asked this to my team, which are all here today, which I'm really proud of. But the other thing is, I put this out to some other people, and there's a quote that she attributes to Mark Twain. The two most important days in your life are the day that you're born and the day that you find your purpose. Okay, and so she was using it to describe everybody has a superpower in their life. And so the one thing is that day that you're born, first of all, is the day that is one of those most important days or events in your life, but the day you found your purpose. And unfortunately, that event happened for me is the day my husband died, which was 9.5 years ago. So I found my purpose being able to take over this company, which I didn't know I could do. So it's created so much in my life. But the other thing that was the big event in my life was being able to marry my husband and having both my mom, who she was, and having my mother-in-law, who were both two incredibly different people. So I got the gift of these two incredible women in my life that taught me two different sides of being a woman. That was just great stuff. I mean, because my mom was in the Army. My dad died when I was 4, so she raised 3 children on her own, or 4 children on her own. I was the third. But the strong woman, strong individual woman that she was, but I had the grace of my mother-in-law, who was the most kindest, sweetest, graceful, caring woman that I ever met. And some of you know her. So Ruth Johnston was part of the women's club as my mother-in-law. Yes. Yeah. So I got both sides of having women too. So I mean, both of those events plus the other part was just, I really, those are great things that happened to me.
Okay. And anything that you would add to that?
Well, I want to brag up Ruthie a little bit more, because what you didn't remind people is you did this in your 50s.
Yeah.
And there are so many people that it's like, oh, like, I can't start. Like, you started a whole nother life in your 50s, and you've mastered a really different industry than you'd ever been in. I think that's amazing.
Okay. Well, that is perfect. So, Marie, what advice would you give other women?
Persistence, be kind to everybody, and treat others like you would want to be treated. And I think my staff would contribute to that. They've been with me for 20 years. I have hardly any turnover. and makes it really nice running a restaurant because it's smooth. They do their job and I do my job, and we all work together. I do everything they do. There is no job that I can't do in my business, and if somebody calls in sick, I'll do it. So that's just it. And I think being kind is the biggest thing.
Sarah, what advice would you give to other women?
I really like Marie's advice. And I certainly affirm that and support that as well. I was thinking advice that I would give is advice that I have gotten from my mom or my mom and my dad, and two of them. The first one is my mom, and if you know my mom, she's this incredible, sweet lady who has a spine of steel. And she told me early on when I was starting to look for work to embrace your foibles and admit them, be honest about them, and know that that's part of who you are. And then seek people who complement and make up for where maybe you aren't as strong, and you have a nice balance. And if you come into where the purple tree, you will see that our right-hand person has a very different style than mine, and together, it really works out well. The other one is, early on, I remember my dad saying to me to treat everybody with respect. He is a pastor, and when we were little girls, he'd say, turn over everybody's palms. They're the same. Treat everybody like that. So.
Very good. Ruthie, what advice would you give?
The first thing, you hit on a lot of it, is don't trip over yourself. Your own messages. Because when you start stumbling on your past, you can't move forward. And so often your own messages trip you up. And and who are you going to give your power to? So when you start giving your power away, you get stuck. So when you do that, and you start to second guess everything of who you are, and who your real purpose is, getting to understand your real values, and operate truly from who you are and what your real values are. By getting in touch with those if you're not working on those real things, you make bad decisions, and then you get knocked off center. And when you get knocked off center, you don't do well. And know you can always get back there and figure out what that system is for you. I have worked really hard to create that system for me, and I was talking earlier to someone. My system is based on gratitude, and when I'm really, really stuck, I actually go out and write thank you notes. And when I'm really, really upset, that's what I do, is I have to go write thank you notes.
Great idea.
Yeah. So then I have to figure out, how do I unwrap that struggle, that gift, to figure out what the opportunity is. So how I can learn from that struggle. I have a wonderful book that I actually give out. I just couldn't do this many this time. It's called a book. It's a book by Bobby Herrera called The Gift of Struggle. The Gift of Struggle, and it's his own personal story about his leadership story, and it's just a great book. But it's my go-to, so, and how I get back to center. So that's great.
All right, Anne.
I'm going to bounce off of your don't give somebody else power kind of I think there's a lot of people that take what I call the victim mindset. You have to accept that you're the only one that you can really control.
Right.
And you can choose in any situation to tell the victim story,
Right.
and you're giving the power to somebody
Right.
else, or you can say, all right, it is what it is. What am I going to do? So many times when I talk to people, they tell you all the things other people did to them, all the things other people are doing from preventing them to get forward,
Right.
all the other things that they have had horrible happen in their life.
Right.
Yet you meet a lot of people who've had equally horrible things, equally bad situations, yet they persisted. And if you talk to them long enough, my favorite book is Viktor Frankl's A Man's Search for Meaning. It's like, how do you go through a concentration camp and come out the other side happy and go lucky while others, didn't flourish?
Right.
Same thing. How do some go through a POW camp and not make it out and others do? Some of it's luck, absolutely, but also some of it is the way you look at anything. So catch yourself telling a victim story, telling what somebody else did. You're giving them the power over you every time you tell that story. And so when you catch yourself saying, I hope this doesn't happen again, here's what somebody else did, here's what I didn't know, here's what I couldn't stop, flip it, and what I call going up the accountability ladder, say, acknowledge the situation and say, what can I do? What am I going to do? How am I going to go forward? And it completely changes the story. Don't let yourself, your daughters, your friends, your neighbors sell the victim story, because that's what the media has taught us. Like,
Right.
nobody ever wants to read a newspaper. They always want to see, woman of 4 loses home. Nobody wants to see woman of 4 lived beyond her means, bought a house she couldn't afford and lost her home. Nobody's going to read that story, right? So we've trained ourselves to tell victim stories, and so that becomes a natural way to do it. So, it's our gift to kind of take that back and say, okay, I just told a victim story. What's my accountable story?
So to build on that, people think they have to have confidence to move out. It's just the opposite. It's having the courage to take the risk that builds the confidence. It's just the opposite. So teaching people to have the courage to take risk absolutely builds confidence. Okay? So having the courage to step out, take the risk, succeed or fall, but learning how to fail up, not down.
I will say, too, when I mentor people, that failing, when a guy fails, it's really interesting. In their story, they're like, all right, they're even more determined to go back at it. Yet women, a lot of times when I'm mentoring them, they retreat way back to go, because I failed, I'm going to go back 20 steps. Guys in their head, when they fail, they're just like, I'm going to teach them a lesson, and I'm going to teach them a lesson by succeeding. We got to have that same tape in our head, not like, because I failed, I got to go back 5 steps before I can go 1 step forward. We got to just go, failure's normal. It's all a lesson of learning. What did I learn? Now I'm going to go forward. And we just have to change that tape in our head to be more confident in our convictions.
All right, so I'd love to open it up to the audience. Who has a question? I'm sorry. Yes, Cindy, thank you.
So many in this society, you see the young women commit suicide. Beautiful young women commit suicide. What's going on? What can be done to help?
I'm going to go there. So often today, we're solving their problems. We're not entering in with questions to ask them to solve their problems. We tend to be the solvers to fix it. I believe we have to stop fixing the problems. We have to enter in to help them fix their problems. How do we have to start not having blinders on to watch behaviors, understand behaviors, start to understand language more. I believe that seriously empowering them to learn how to fix it. Instead of trying to fix it for them. I have a son here, and he hates this, but I'm a mom, and I can tell you just what Ann talked about earlier. This is a difficult role for women. Is to divide that out. Is to say, okay, I'm not going to go in and do this. This is a very difficult role for women, to know when to do this and just be able to stay this, to not have that heart. Well, I should do this, and double it. He's my VP. So double that role as being his boss. We have, this is a big thing because he's also in our chain. He's chief of ops. So on top of it, I'm above him, which makes it even hard. How do I not be? Oh, Mom. Oh, man. How can I help you do this? How can I do this? How can I do this for you? It's really hard, to not be mom and fix it for him. We fix too much as parents. We don't help them learn how to fix it for themselves today.
All right, anyone else have a comment on that question, or?
I'll add, and again, I hate to use the same tool, but because I've got a daughter, I've got kids. I do think it starts with how you talk when there is a setback, right? Mm-hmm. So I can think back to my daughter coming home early, and she's like, "Everybody hates me. They're all mean to me." Some of the bullying type things. And while you could go, "Oh, that's horrible, honey. Let's go get chocolate cookies." Also saying, "Okay, you can't change who they are. You may wish you could change who they are, but." Let's make, what other choices can you make?
Right.
Who can you, start going with somebody else? And I've watched, because of those conversations, that when now she's in those situations, she'll just pick groups of friends. She'll shift to groups of friends, whereas if it'd been that, oh, poor you, just try to be more likable, you try to, it's no, if you're in a bad situation,
what choices do you have?
Yeah, give them back that, stop rewarding the victim conversations. Right. And because of the role I'm in, we also deal with a lot of that veteran suicide, and this is a very complex, so I'm not going to overcomplicate it, but it's very similar. If when you get out of the military now, you're told all of the things you should go get money for because you're disabled, because you're no longer a whole person, you walk around thinking, oh, I'm not a whole person. So we accidentally feed that system versus getting out and going, all these great benefits are there for you if you need it, but meanwhile, go live your life. How can we help you live your life versus telling them stories of how they've been hurt by their military service? Let's build that up. But unfortunately, some of the same agencies that are really trying to help them feed them with all the things they no longer are instead of all the things they really are. So we have to help people tell their accountable, powerful stories and stop accidentally feeding the powerless. Oh, it's social media. Oh, it's the bullying. All those things happen, and all those things have happened since the beginning of time. But the most resilient, gritty people are the ones that have a different tape playing in their head. And I'm with you on that. We got to help them.
It's the word should. You should do this. It's choice. And granted, there is mental health issues that you cannot, there is chemical mental health issues that need that intervention. I mean, that's not all the answer. That is not all the answer, but there is stuff that we are giving messages to from the time they are born. That we have to create tools that empower them to be strong and independent. To tell them that we believe in them, that they have the power to make good choices.
All right, any other questions from the audience? You got the brightest and the best up here. I tell you, we could have done a panel with 30 people, which is great. So let me just ask, describe your biggest challenge and how did it contribute to your overall success? So I'll just start right down the line with Marie.
Work hard. That's what Sarah and I, we always shoveling boxes around, doing stuff, stocking. And prove that you can do it. And my biggest thing, work hard, be persistent, And I had some challenges early on when I was trying to open businesses. I went from one bank to another, wrote business plan after business plan. They didn't like it. And being an immigrant at that, I was early on, it was very hard. It took me 2 years to get my first loan, and finally I could open the bistro. And my boss in Dayton said, Marie, you can do it. Just keep going, keep going. But I could have given up, and I didn't. There was times where I wanted to, but he said, keep going, keep going. And that led me to the next one and to the next one. And you have to write a business plan every time. It's got to be fresh, it's got to be new, and you go from bank to bank to bank, and they turn you down, and it feels like failure, but I keep going on. Kept going on, and it worked.
Good. All right, Sarah, how about for you, your biggest challenge, and how do you contribute to your success?
When we opened our family business, we took a leap of faith, and actually daily we kind of had that conversation that we're going to continue taking leaps of faith, because somehow they sort out and things happen as they're meant to be. But when we opened our door roughly 16 years ago, and we told people that we were going to be a retail shop that was mission-based, we were concerned about the planet, we were concerned about the treatment of people, we were advocates for peace and social justice. Can you imagine how that was looked at? And when we met with our accountant the first time, he was like, man, good luck. And I just met with our accountant because business taxes are due. Yay. Ours are done. And he just said, wow, you can run a triple bottom line business and do well. But it continues to be where lots of people look at me like we're borderline crazy. And I take that as a huge compliment, that, when you break trends, break barriers, that's when amazing things happen. And so we're just gonna take those challenges, keep taking leaps of faith, and think about how we're treating, our planet and people, and take each day as it comes.
All right, Ruthie.
Well, as you heard, I came into Croix Gear at age 57. I did not know anything about the business. Nothing. And I walked in the door there, and everybody going, why are you here? Because I didn't know anything about manufacturing. I didn't know what we did. And I didn't. They actually expected me to sit at home and just collect money. And I couldn't do that because I didn't think Croix Gear could afford to pay me. My personal self wouldn't accept that. To pay me and pay somebody else to run the company. And to begin with, I couldn't even talk the language or understand what they were doing. So to begin with, actually, Mary Claire just asked me the other night, we were out to dinner, she goes, what did you do when you first came in? She
I meant it in a nice way when I asked. It was in a kind way is how I said it.
The first couple of weeks is all I did was sign legal papers that I didn't even know what they meant when I was signing them. But so that's what I did the first couple of weeks. Or just sign legal papers. So, okay. So that's what I did. But then I went home for a couple of weeks, and Matt would come and visit me at lunchtime. And it was really funny because he came one week, and I was like, Matt, I can hear water running in the house, but I can't find it. So he would come and help me do that kind of stuff. I'm like, oh, well, yeah, there was a problem. We had a broken pipe outside the house. And it was, so he had that. So I didn't even know how to take care of my own house. So, but the point is, then I would go in and I'd go and look at the computer for a couple hours. Well, what am I going to look at the internet for the day, So then I'd go home, but then it got to be the point where I wanted to sit in and learn. And I did sit at the computer, look at things that were valuable. What is heat treating? What does heat treating mean? What are they doing with this? What's this? What's this with this? So then I did what I called the Columbo tour. So I'd go out and do the detective search. Well, what does this mean? What does this mean? I'd walk around and do that, and I did that for a while. But they still didn't believe I had value. Because why would they? You don't know anything. Why? So for me to be the boss, they didn't even, when they brought in the biggest client, introduce me to begin with. No. And I was in this office, and the conference room was right next door. They didn't even introduce me to begin with. So even as the owner and stuff of the company, because they didn't feel I had value. I wasn't contributing. So, and I wasn't. I mean, I totally understood why. I mean, why would you? Couldn't contribute anything. But I did learn. And Matt would teach me, and Rob is here, our quality guy. He would sit with me and teach me gears. He would sit with me with a book and stuff and take time to teach me gears. I had some teachers. I could ask dumb questions of them, and they wouldn't laugh at me, which was cool. Then I finally got to go on a tour, and it all fell. I went to Germany and got to watch from design all the way through, and it all fell into place. So I still have a lot to learn. I learn every day, but I got to create the strategy. That's what I brought to Croix Gear, a vision, a strategy. And what I work on mostly is the culture piece. The culture has changed incredibly at Croix Gear. I have the vision and how to bring, there never was a vision for where Croix Gear was going. Croix Gear has grown, has doubled in size. We've done an addition. We have a whole different strategy. We don't work top down any longer. We work bottom up. We work as team because they had to teach me, so the team had to come together. So we work as that, and I have outside contractors that teach me. That's my superpower, is to bring the right people together to teach. So those are the things that have come from Croix Gear since my coming in.
All right, Anne, any final comments?
Well, I would say my big, and I didn't share this with you guys yet, but when I was 42, I had a heart attack. So looked the same way, running marathons, have my kids, have my career, doing the volunteering, going to school. I had convinced myself I could have it all and do it all, and if I worked hard, it would be fine. The reality was I wasn't managing my stress. I had convinced myself I could sleep maybe 2 to 4 hours a night and get everything else done in between there. And suddenly you find yourself in a hospital room going, I almost orphaned my kids, widowed my husband, and if I think I was helping my company, now I would have left them without whatever I was doing. And guess what? The company would have been fine. They would have sent my family flowers and they would have moved on, yet I almost gave them my life. So I re-engineered, with the help of my doctor, my life to say, he's like, you got to sleep 7 hours plus. You got to do that. If you have a choice between working out and if you're not sleeping 7 hours a night, you're a ticking time bomb, and you've got to do that. You've got to manage the stress in your life. So this was before I figured that you could change culture. You could take control over things. I was trying to be overly accountable for everything. So I lowered my expectations of home. I stopped trying to have work-life balance, and I made it work-life integration. I integrated my life, so when there's field trips, when there's things that were important to me and my family, they're on my calendar. I made room for them. I still do not have the sleeping 7 hours a night down. I wear the Fitbit every night and yell at myself every morning, but I'm working on it, right? And I get far more than 2 to 4 hours. And I have chosen to get out of toxic cultures. Back then I thought it is what it is, and I can fix everything. I won't deal with toxic people. Just like I told my daughter, if I'm in a bad friend situation, if I'm in a bad work situation, I vote with my feet. I get out. Certainly as a leader, I can shape some things, but at a certain point you have to decide, when am I uphill battle, and there's better places. And I will move on from friendships. I will move on from toxic work situations when I no longer can shape it myself. So I beg all of you out there that think you have to do everything and everything has to be perfect, you've got to take care of yourselves first, or it really doesn't matter.
Wow. Okay, thank you. What incredible leaders we have and incredible leaders in our room. We are so excited that you joined us today for our first annual. We will continue this as we continue to celebrate International Women's Day here in Hudson. So just a final closing comments. Again, want to thank Christensen Creative for sponsoring, to the Wired Robin for catering. And we do have a drawing. You put your name in. So I'm going to have Ann draw. You might need a lovely golf umbrella as we come to spring. So who is the winner? Kelly from Seek Professionals. Yay, you have a golf umbrella. So thank you again to Anne, Ruthie, Sarah, and Marie for your incredible stories and your inspiration. And let's go make it a great day. Thank you so much.